Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Mecha Mike, and we got an interesting topic that we're going to talk about today. So, I had to let this situation marinate for a little bit, but now it's time to talk about it. But before, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel so I keep giving you guys this type of content. So, man, Atlanta, Atlanta, Atlanta. Um, They had a very interesting offseason, just to say the least. And arguably, they shocked the NFL world, specifically during the draft. And it kind of went like this. With the eighth overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons select Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. And my jaw just dropped when I heard that. And af- I was just very very confused at the pick. I'm not. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't like the pick, but I and I'm not saying anything about Michael Penix. I think he's a great player. Loved what he did the national championship game. Obviously, they didn't win it, but uh, man, it was something. And I just couldn't understand why they picked him. Just because, obviously, you all know, uh, previously this year, the Atlanta Falcons signed Kirk Cousins to a 4 year, $180 million contract. And that's is I'm not too concerned about actually signing the contract, but they basically gave Kirk Cousins 100 million fully guaranteed. And in my mind, when they signed Kirk Cousins that amount of money, that was another why would you do that to a guy coming off a torn Achilles? And yeah, he looked decent with the Vikings, but you don't pay a guy coming off a torn Achilles that much money, especially at his age. But that's what Atlanta decided to do. But there's a high risk in doing that, and there's more than likely he won't even make it to the end of his contract. But you gave him all that guaranteed money for what? I really didn't see any other team in the NFL doing that. And that was like the Vikings the first time around when they gave 80 million fully guaranteed to Kirk Cousins. I'm like, why are you guys doing? Nobody's doing this. So if you're afraid to be outbid, let a team go and outbid you. But there's a lot of guys. You could have signed Carson Wentz and got similar production at the quarterback position. And a lot of people say, "Oh no, but Carson Wentz is washed, this and that." Okay, you just drafted Michael Penix. So your intent is to replace the quarterback anyway, then might as well have gotten someone like Carson Wentz who can still play in this league. But if y'all really think Kirk Cousins is going to just take you to the promised land, that's just not happening. We've seen the history in Washington. They're like, oh, he doesn't have any weapons. He didn't have any help. Then he goes to the Vikings, and let's just list some of the guys that he played with the Vikings. He had Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook. And that's all. He had a lot of talent with him in the Vikings and didn't really do much with it. And we need to stop making excuses for certain quarterbacks because I hear a lot of time people want to bring in the whole Dak situation. Oh, Dak has had all this talent, but they don't talk about how at one point Dak didn't have wide receivers like that. They had Jason Garrett, predictable play calling, Kellen Moore predictable play calling, and at times you've seen the defense just fall apart in big moments, but it's Dak's fault. Kirk Cousins' situation is different. They've gotten him the weapons. He's had really good teams. He's been the reason why they've not succeeded. And this is the guy that they're giving all this money to when he hasn't shown that, even with all the talent in the world, hasn't done anything with it. But that's they don't pay me the big bucks to make those decisions. The GM, head coach, new head coach in Atlanta, that's what they decided. And I thought it was a little bit funny when Kirk Cousins, they didn't even consult him about it, and they don't have to. But I just kind of have it. It's kind of funny to me because I know they thought, okay, going into this draft, we want Kirk Cousins, but then they saw that shiny object, aka Michael Penix Jr., and they're just like, man, we can get the best of both worlds. But the only problem, uh, and I understand why they probably drafted Michael Penix, because they think that they have their guy Kirk Cousins, and he was going to play those 4 years. More than likely, he won't. But they probably did it because they see the talent in Michael Penix, and he has an injury history too. Remember that he has an injury history too. So there's potential, but there's also risk with him. So they probably thought, okay, let's let him sit behind him for a year or two, understand the football, the NFL speed, get adjusted, get healthy. But the concerning part is, like we said, that his injury history, because tore he tore the same ACL twice, once in 2018, then again in 2020, and in between that, dislocated his SC joint on his right shoulder, and then in 2021, dislocated a joint in his throwing shoulder. So he has a lot of risk as well. But I understand taking the risk on a guy like that. But my philosophy when it comes to quarterbacks is that whole drafting guys to sit doesn't sit well with me. And the reason it doesn't sit well with me because you're creating quarterback controversy for no reason. If this is your guy, go with it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And we've seen in various situations where you see the two starting quarterbacks on a roster, and eventually they pick somebody, and because they have to. You're not going to keep both those guys. Like, for example, Joe Montana, Steve Young. As great as Joe Montana was, they let him go. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. We know how that played out. They let Rodgers go. Drew Brees, Philip Rivers. They let Drew Brees go. Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts. They let Carson Wentz go. And even just recently, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. They let Aaron Rodgers go. That's how the NFL works. So trying to be cute historically doesn't work out for guys. I get it. You want your guy and you want a backup. But then you don't take into account how the starter feels. Because the only problem with football is that the quarterback position is the only position in football where, for some reason, we feel like we need to baby the starter. Yes, I get he gets the most money. Yes, it's a very complex position, but it's the only position that we baby the starter. Every other position is competition. But for the quarterback, they create an environment where he has no competition, where he can play freely. So when you bring in that competition, it can get ugly quickly, especially like, for example, the minute a quarterback starts playing bad, you're in trouble because you're paying Kirk Cousins all that money, so he has to perform in his first year. If he doesn't, then you start thinking, oh man, we paid this guy all this money. We need to get our money's worth, but it's not working. So what do we do? Do we just can't cut him because all that guaranteed money is you're on the hook for a lot of money. You know, I get it. Penix is cheap right now, but it's going to hinder you from bringing in more talent. And that's the thing I never understood. Why would you give Kirk Cousins all that money when you could have used that money to build a roster under Michael Penix? But like I said, I feel like this was a late decision because they didn't think he'd be there on the board. So that's why sometimes I don't understand what teams do because you got your guy and that's fine, but then you see another guy, oh, I want him too. But you tend to forget that big money could have went to go get you a better defense, could have got you the better weapons to give your rookie quarterback an opportunity to succeed. Because if everything plays out the way Atlanta is going, and say for example that Kirk Cousins plays the 4 years, then you're coming up on Michael Penix's fifth year option with no starting experience. And by then, will you have the money and will you actually be invested to build around him? You don't know what you're getting at that point. But if you're gonna throw him out in the fire, just throw him out in the fire early. Don't wait a couple years later and hope he's gonna be good. Because then you might have to scrap everything. And you never know how Kirk Cousins is gonna turn out. Kirk Cousins is constantly not winning, then the fans are gonna say, we need to see Michael Penix sooner. Got to make a decision. So it's just wild to me how uh, teams make decisions, and even and I think also too because they listen too much to the media. Because even with Kirk Cousins having all that talent in the Vikings, remember they had Case Keenum at the time. Kirk Cousins was supposed to replace Case Keenum because everybody in the media said if you get a better quarterback on that Vikings team, you'll be in the Super Bowl. Everybody in their mama said that. Kirk Cousins is the far better quarterback, bigger arm, better, more accurate, just a better all around quarterback. But he couldn't even outdo Case Keenum because that's the problem. Stop listening to the media to make decisions. They're there to talk. You need to do what's best for your team. But unfortunately, like I said, the media was wrong in that instance. Uh, and when you listen to media make football decisions, it's all chaos, and it's usually never going to work most of the time. But all in all, for me, Atlanta getting Michael Penix, I feel was a great pick. I like his style of play. Only issues is the injuries, but I feel like he's going to be something special if he could stay healthy. But again, with paying Kirk Cousins, that pick was a shock. And it's going to bring the Falcons just a bunch of unnecessary QB drama, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I hope it works out. But this year, Atlanta's going to be very, very interesting to watch. So that's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it, but hey, you're here to listen to it. So. Well, that's all I got to say about this subject. Thank you guys once again for watching this video. It's your boy Mecca Mike. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Uh, that's all we got today. And I'm out.